Um, all right. Hi, my name's Jonathan Cox. Do a quick lightning talk on using, I call it Visual Studio Code. I don't know, like, I heard it referenced earlier as just or just Visual Code. I assume that they're both the same product, but I don't know for certain. And I'm kind of lazy to Google. So as the gentleman before us kind of gave you a hint, it's kind of an IDE editor. It's kind of an editing environment. Microsoft came out with it 2015, I think, is when they released Visual Studio Code. Maybe 14, but I want to say 2015. So it's been around for a couple years. Multi-platform. So you can run it on your Mac. You can run it on certain versions of Linux, I assume. I'm a Windows guy, so I don't test the waters too much with anything. So today we're going to show you just kind of a quick and easy way to use it to work with SQL Server. And then be done. That way you don't have to always download SSMS. So, yeah. All right, it's me. There's my blog. You can find me on Twitter at HackDBA. In true fashion, I seriously shouldn't be around a SQL Server. I am 100% an accidental DBA. I still can't believe I'm employed, to be honest with you. It's serious. You've seen it first. It's ridiculous sometimes, but nonetheless, it's good times. So I just want to talk about some basic stuff with it before actually going to kind of a live demo and show you how it works. First thing is, when you open it up, it's basically kind of looks like any normal text editor. You got your menus and everything like that. The first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to set basically a file type, tell it that you want to work with Microsoft SQL. Or else it won't connect. Let's see. When you're connected up to SQL Server, it fully supports IntelliSense, which is great because I am forever making typos. Or I don't know the table name per se, right? A lot of our tables are named really weird stuff like RM00100. You know, so trying to remember 3,000 tables because of an ERP product is just ridiculous. So it's really, really helpful to have that right there, especially if you've ever worked with Dynamics GP or SAP, anything like that. It supports both SQL and integrated authentication, so that's pretty handy. I don't know a whole lot of detail about it, like how the backend piece works and how it makes all those authentications or anything like that. I assume that Microsoft's got that in their documentation, and I didn't care. Well, it's not that I don't care. It's just I didn't think of that question until probably earlier today about the details, so I left it out of the slide. Another thing is they can store profiles. This is kind of a handy deal if you're connecting to a multitude of SQL servers throughout the day and you need to switch between them quickly. It will store password credentials for you. Don't do it. Just don't. It's a bad deal. You're gonna have a bad time all around if something happens to your laptop or gets stolen. Just stuff floating around. Okay. So basically some shortcuts. Really, it's basic stuff. If you've worked with Visual Studio in the past, I believe these are kind of the defaults for its SQL data. I could be wrong. I didn't get to install the full Visual Studio before I left to compare, but these are just kind of some of the basics. I actually went and stole their shortcut list. It's actually far more than this right here. This is their basic shortcuts. If you were to go to and look at the settings for key mappings, it just goes for days. I mean, there's just so much you can do with it and the way you can code it. So that was kind of that. Here are the basics of the details of where you can get it. I'll throw these up on my blog a little bit later. If you want the slide, you can download it, or if you need it emailed, I can email it to you. But that's kind of it on that. So I figured just show you how it works because I'm more of a seer than a talker per se, as you can tell. All right, so we'll jump over here. So I've already got Visual Studio installed. No. All right, so basically the first thing you would do is, in order to get this installed, is down here they have these extensions. I don't even think I have Wi-Fi turned on, do I? I think it was. I think this is the same visual code you were referencing in your slide, right? Okay. Yep. All right. So I'm going to skip the initial install of Visual Studio Code. I assume everybody knows they can just go to Google, type in VS Code, and it should be within like the first 1 or 2 search results. Download it, install it. It's like 65 megs. It's a very quick install. Once you get it installed, this is kind of the screen you're going to look at. And the first thing you can do is you can come over here, look at the extensions that are in the marketplace, and it comes up blank if you don't have any installed. So for me, I've got the Microsoft SQL. I do some PowerShell stuff, and then some other weird database stuff. This is the piece that allows you to connect to like MySQL databases, because it does connect to other databases outside of just MS SQL. So I was like, yay. But the one that this talk focuses around is essentially MS SQL one. And you just seriously just type in MS SQL, and it will go and find it, and then you can click to install. It'll reload the screen, and you're done in about 2 minutes, give or take, maybe less than that. So go on. Okay. So in my slide, the first thing I was kind of talking to you guys about was that file type and letting you know that it is a SQL file type. Down here at the bottom right-hand corner, I don't know if you guys can see that or not, they give you a list of all these different language modes to work with. I simply just type in SQL, and now I've actually got a SQL file language that I'm working with. So now I want to say get connected up to my local SQL instance. My Control-Shift-P, my shortcut, opens up my command palette is what I call it. I type in MS, SQL, and I get to see a list of all the SQL things they've got. You know, cancel query, connect, disconnect, execute the query, all that, the getting started guide. So for me, what I want to do is I actually want to get connected. And I'll just walk you through creating a new profile. We'll call this, we'll say new, give it a name, hit enter. An optional database to connect to. If not, by default, it'll default to master. So if you're working with something like Dynamics or something else, you can just tell it to do that here. For simplicity, I'll just leave it as default. Authentication method, you can do SQL logins or come back down to and do integrated authentication. For the ease of this, I'll just walk through and just do SQL authentication. I'm going to go ahead and break my best practice rules, all right? There we go. Then your password, for whatever your password's going to be, connect up to your database. No, you're actually using your SQL credentials. So if you have like a SQL login or SA credentials or whatever, that's what you would populate right here. Nah, I know, right? Hey, I need you to show it to me in plain text first. Which, yeah. Here's that window we were talking about where it says, you know, when you save your profile to come back to it later, do you want to save your password information? Even though this is local, I just say no, just out of habit. I don't ever save a password. I can't bring myself to do it. Then enter a name for the profile, whatever you want to call it. So if it's like a dev environment or whatever your naming convention is going to be. There we go. You'll notice as soon as you do that, down here in the bottom right-hand corner, it should begin to say connecting. And it should already be connected. All right. Oh, no. Here. Okay. I probably just miskeyed the password. It doesn't check that information for you before you log in, by the way. So if you get those errors after the fact like that, probably just miskeyed some kind of information. So for me, it was simply just the password. So the first thing you notice down here at the bottom, connected up to my SQL Server name, the database name, who I'm logged in as, and then the encryption, and then the version of SQL that you're actually connected into. It would be nice if it just said SQL 2016 or SQL 2012 instead of us giving like the version build, but it doesn't. So yeah, so now we're connected, right? I can start running basic SQL connections. Control-Shift-E to execute my query. And then it just returns back my result set right here. I find this is kind of pretty helpful during the daytime. That way I'm not switching between SSMS windows all the time because I get really confused. Another great thing I like about this is it supports the option for a folder. Did I leave it? No, since I'm not connected up, that's why it's not going to show me. But yeah, it's really that simple. It's like 5 minutes, and you're maybe 10 at the latest, and you're done and you're connected. Like I said, the longest part's probably going to be the download, maybe. The IntelliSense is pretty nifty. So if I want to figure out a little bit more about that table, oh, come on now. Oh, it's not going to do it to me now. IntelliSense will tell you pretty much anything that you would find in SSMS. It would go even a little bit further. In this, it will break out and kind of show you data types of the columns that you're selecting back. So if you're unfamiliar with a particular database and you're kind of curious, what's that column type going to be, or, what am I going to have to do to that column? Am I going to have to convert anything? It will show you that information. I find that it's easier to actually obtain that out of SSMS because I can just hit tables, columns, and go. This doesn't give you like a table explorer. You don't get to just go and tab out and find that information. So that's the only kind of the downside about it. But the IntelliSense piece does work, and it's handy, especially if you don't know how to spell. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. It's real simple, not a complicated thing to do. So, yeah. Yes, sir. I'm sorry?
This is just meant to be an SSMS thing, not like not to write C# code.
You can use this editor to write C# with. Visual Studio Code is kind of an all-encompassing language editor. I'm not really a dev, so I think my wording can be off. But I think that's what it would be. It's just it does multiples of languages. So correct. Yeah. Yeah, so it's pretty lightweight. I think Microsoft designed it this way. I would think maybe just that way it works better across multiple operating systems would be my only guess. Like, in other words, they can get it on Mac OS and they don't lose any of that functionality. I don't know, do you run it in like a VM, or do you run it just literally on OS? Okay, so, and, yeah, that's it. Well, any other questions? Yeah. I haven't tried it myself. Like I said, I don't.
I had to use it on Linux once, and that wasn't too bad. The IntelliSense is really nice.
Really, so it does carry all the way across. That's nifty. Yeah, I try not to test the waters too much. Get out of my comfort zone. Like, so I stick with my start menu.
Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I was remoting into a server. I was remoting into a server. That's why I missed it.
Gotcha. No, I do think it does have a Nix version. I didn't see explicit instructions on the Microsoft website. I did find them for the Mac, but I didn't find them for any kind of version of Nix. But I will. I think it is supported. I don't know. Yeah. So. All right. Thank you guys very much.